the Republican nominee for this year's presidential election, Donald J. Trump. Welcome. How many of you actually feel good about how the economy is right now? No.
Yeah.
You have our first question on the economy. We will start there. Your first name, please, and tell us your hometown.
My name is Lisa, and I live in the city of Milton. First of all, welcome back to Georgia, President Trump.
Thank you very much.
Americans are concerned about the state of our economy. Democrats argue that your policies favor the wealthy, especially through tax cuts for billionaires, while the middle class continues to struggle these last 3.5 years under the Biden-Harris administration. Could you outline your plans to revitalize the economy again as president and policies that specifically support the middle class when reelected?
Sure. Thank you very much. Great question. And sort of an easy question for me to answer because we have tremendous wealth in this country, but it's under our feet. It's called liquid gold. And we're going to bring down your energy costs. And with that, everything's going to follow. We're also going to make it possible for companies to come into our country again. You know, we've lost so many businesses. If you're in furniture making, like in North Carolina, they're flocking out of our country because we have politicians that don't know what to do. We're bringing them all back. We have a tax rate that's going to lure them, and we're going to protect them with tariffs so they can make money and so they don't get stolen. But we're going to have record-setting jobs. And just to know, I mean, the advantage I have is that I've done it. We had the greatest economy in the history of our country. We had never had an economy. And remember this, we also had the safest border in the history of our country. We never had a border that safe. The famous graph that I looked at, you know, my all-time favorite piece of paper. I mean, even... my all-time favorite. I love that piece of paper. But that shows you, that day, the day I left office, the border was the safest it ever was in the history of our country. We had the fewest number of people. We have the least amount of drugs. Everything was human trafficking, which is now 12 times higher than it was when. And it's trafficking, I hate to say this, mostly in women. It's a vicious thing because of the Internet and because of this administration, maybe more so than the Internet. But we had the safest border. We had the best economy. Think of it, a combination of security and finance and all of the other things. And we're going to make it even better. We're going to make the border even better. But the border can't. I mean, we did things with the border that nobody could have done, including we built 571 miles of wall. And that wall worked. Then I got Mexico to give us soldiers, a lot of soldiers, 28,000 soldiers to protect us. I said, you have to protect us because you're letting all of these criminals come into our country. You have to protect us. They said, we're not going to do it. I said, good, then I'm just going to tariff all your goods until you do it. They said, like I said, we're going to do it. And they gave us the social. So we had great protection, and we had the best economy in the history of our country.
Okay. So women are the largest registered and active group of voters. Social Security is important to some women, and people over the age of 65 are a very large voting bloc as well. You have said that you would not tax some of that Social Security money. How would that work?
We're not going to tax any of the Social Security money, the benefits that go to seniors, because what you've done, what they've done to you with inflation is a disaster. It's the economy. But in terms of really the numbers, it's the inflation. We had the worst, they say it's in 48 years, I say ever. We had the worst inflation in the history of our country, and the ones that really got hurt the worst are people that are on a fixed income, like our seniors. And I said, we're not going to tax Social Security benefits on our seniors. And I would say this, we just got the endorsement of Border Patrol all over the country. Border Patrol, virtually every sheriff's department, every police department, the Fraternal Order of Police, 400,000 police, the biggest in the country. We have every single, I don't think they have a policeman or a policewoman single. And we have the border, we had the safest border in the history of our country. Now we have the most unsafe border in the history of our country. So when you talk about safety, we had, it was just announced, as you know, last week, 13,099 murderers were released into our country. drug dealers, drug addicts, everybody is released into our country. We've never had anything like this. We've never had a mess like this. 625,000 criminals released into our country, along with 21 million people. We have no idea who they are. And, you know, that's just a soundbite. I don't know this guy, but he got lucky as hell to win, I'll tell you that much. But it's a soundbite that they like to use. But remember this, law enforcement's with me 100%, and we have to keep our community safe. And we have to take these murderers that they've allowed to come through open borders without knowing anything about them. We have to take those people and we have to remove them. We have to get them out of our country.
Up and down the ballot, how many of you are worried about biological men and boys competing against women and girls in sports? Just show me. That's almost that is the entire room. And I know you have a question.
I do.
By the way, excuse me, it's so crazy. It's so crazy.
Your question, your name and your hometown.
My name is Linda, and I'm from Milton, Georgia.
Good.
But originally Brooklyn, New York.
Oh, wow.
I'd get that
good.
in there. My question is, how do you plan on addressing the transgender issue in women's sports? I have 9 grandchildren, 6 of them female, all playing sports, and we are very concerned for their safety, not just on the field and the courts, but in their locker rooms as well.
Right. It's such an easy question, and everybody in the room, and you know that answer, we're not going to let it happen. You look, just yesterday, they had a volleyball match. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Where a person that transitioned, okay? We have to be very careful because this can terminate your political career if you say it's slightly off, all right? But transitioned from man to female and was on a volleyball. And I saw the slam. It was a slam. I never saw a ball hit so hard. Hit the girl on the head. But other people, even in volleyball, they've been permanently, I mean, they've been really hurt badly, women playing men. But you don't have to do the volleyball. We stop it. We stop it. We absolutely stop it. You can't have it. It's a man playing in the game. I mean, physically, from a muscular standpoint, even if it was a little bit less, maybe they do all sorts of tests and drugs and everything else. Look at what's happened in swimming. Look at the records that are being broken.
So how do you stop it? Do you go to the sports leagues? Do you go to the Olympic
You just
councils?
ban it. The president bans it. You just don't let it happen. Not a big deal.
I'm a single mom to 2 kids here. And just in 3.5 years, my child tax credit has decreased by 80%, almost.
You get what? Excuse me?
Her child
Sorry, this-
tax credit has decreased by 80%.
That's
Sorry, my child tax credit has decreased by almost 80%. Daycare, for the lowest amount, is roughly $1,400 a month for one child here.
Yeah.
Last year, I broke my neck. I almost lost.
You have a beautiful voice, by the way.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
I'm having a panic attack right now. Like, don't panic.
Right here with you.
But last year I had broken my neck and I tried applying for any kind of assistance and was denied because I did not make less than $700 a month. And I'm shaking like a freaking leaf. I cannot stop. So I could not afford daycare. I obviously was having to go through physical therapy and a lot of issues, and I'm still having issues to this day.
Right, I understand.
But what kind of realistic changes that do you think you can provide single parents, married parents, any kind of parent to just simply afford children in today's world with the way things are?
Right? It is not fair.
No.
You never heard of Ivanka, right? Ivanka. My daughter drove me crazy on this. We had the simplest, most beautiful I gave you the largest tax cuts in the history of our country, okay? Larger than the Reagan cuts, larger. But my daughter, Ivanka, she said, Dad, we have to do tax credits for women, for the child tax credits. She was driving me crazy. Then I did it, and I got it just about done. Dad, you've got to double it up. I said, Ivanka, it was actually more complicated than the entire bill, but I got it done. And what we're going to do, and I'm going to because I understand exactly what you're saying, we're going to readjust things so that it's fair to everybody, because it's really not fair to everybody. But we have a lot. And we're going up higher, but we're also going to readjust because you have to make some readjustments. It's unfair to some people, and we're not going to have that. But she was the one that got it started. Those were our credits. Those were not the Democrat credits. A lot of Republicans said, rightfully, Don't do it because we never get credit for that. We're not known for that. But the truth is, I wanted to put it all in the form of the tax cut. So I got the maximum tax cut, but we're also bringing down the taxes for companies and for people. We're bringing it down to 15%. And for companies, only if you make your product, build your product in the USA. Otherwise, you don't get it. So I feel so badly about what's happened because none of this would have happened. Just to start, there wouldn't have been a war in Ukraine and Russia. There wouldn't have been an October 7th in Israel. There wouldn't have been this horrible, most embarrassing day in the history of our country with Afghanistan, where we lost 13 soldiers. But they never talk about the soldiers that are so badly wounded. I mean, with legs and arms and face obliteration, all these things. And there wouldn't have been any inflation. And it's so sad to see. We have to get prices down because the damage is done. When they say, well, we're stopping inflation because it went down now to 4.5%. Well, 4.5% is very high. It's very high, meaning it's going up because it was at 3 but it was at one point, I believe, 40 or 50%. Because if you look, they didn't include a lot. They didn't include, I had interest rates at 2%. They went to 10%, but at 10% you couldn't get the money. So they weren't at 10%, they were much higher than 10%. We've got to get the pricing down. It's this big lump.
So how do you?
And we've got to do, well, I'll tell you, everything starts with interest rates. If you get interest down, but it all starts with energy. We have more energy than anybody. We don't use it. We go to Venezuela to get their tar. They have tar, and we have to refine it. We have the only refinery that can do it is in Houston, Texas. So if you're an environmental person, this stuff is pouring up. It's the worst stuff. We have the best, most beautiful. We have the best and the most. And we have to if we get energy down, and I'm making this pledge here, but I have made it a couple of days before, so But your energy bill, which is a very big bill, will be down 50% starting on 1 year from January 20th. We take office, if we win this election, and I just, it's beyond I didn't need to do this. I really didn't. I saw what was happening. And I said, I have to do it again. We had a great election in 2020. We had an election that was much better than 2016.
Let me ask you this.
And I said, we have to do it again. We're going to get the prices down. We can't just leave them up there because it's going to take too long for people to catch up. That's why I did the social
we have to reset. I don't know how you reset to prices that are 4
You can
times
get the
what you
prices
had.
down.
So let me ask you,
by the way, energy brings everything.
My name is Tran Minh Nguyen, and my family escaped the communist Vietnam 30 years ago. And this is my question for you. America is a land of opportunity, and its policy welcomes immigrants legally. How different is your policy versus Harris when it comes to securing our borders and only accepting people to U.S. without causing any issue to our country?
Yeah. On the borders?
Mm-hmm. Well, and people coming legally.
Yeah. We want to have as many people come in as possible, but they have to come in legally. We don't want murderers. We don't want drug dealers. We don't want human traffickers. We don't want people from prison that are being let out after murdering somebody. We don't want to have that. We want to have great people come in. And that's the sad thing. So many people work to come in our country. They've worked for 10 years. They're getting ready. And then millions of people pour through the southern border. They fly them over in airplanes. Nobody knew that until about 9 months ago. They were talking about the border and they're trying and all this. Look, he's the worst president in history, and she's the worst vice president. She's worse than him. She's worse than him. And she was made the border czar, and she's destroying our country. I don't want to use the word destroyed because that makes it sound like it can't come back, but it's awfully close. She is the worst. He made her border czar. She never even went there. The Border Patrol yesterday, 2 days ago, thousands of them, the whole thing, 100%, unanimous, every single person, thousands of them, they endorsed me, and they work for her. They're not even sure if they're allowed to do it. They said, we don't care. She's so bad. We don't care. Do whatever you want to do. We have to have borders if we don't have borders. But we also want to have people come in. We actually need people. We sort of all these companies that we're going to bring in through taxation. We're going to bring in a lot of companies. They've got to have people to work. Otherwise, bringing them in is not going to work either. You need the people. But they're going to come in through testing. They're going to come in through, like, do they love our country? Can they love our country? We had Aurora, Colorado, where Venezuelan street gangs have taken over a big chunk of the city. They've taken over apartment buildings. They're in the real estate business, just like I am.
Oh, my goodness.
No, but think of it. They've taken over buildings, and everyone's petrified. The governor of the state is petrified. He's a radical left guy. He has no idea what to do. We can't have that. And you know what? And you see it. Every state is afraid of this, even the ones that haven't been hit yet.
I'm Nancy. I'm from Milton, Georgia, originally from Ohio.
Good.
But go Dogs. Yeah. And thank you for coming. Furthering the discussion on immigrant crime, along with liberal-run cities where crime is out of control. My son is a Georgia Bulldog. He was on campus the day Laken Riley was murdered. You know, terrifying for all those kids, right? I wanted to know, like, how quickly in a sanctuary city, like they're calling Athens, Georgia, how quickly can you remove those threats to our society so that our children can go out on a run, as they rightfully should be able to do, in a park in the daytime by themselves? It should not be like that. And also, I was wondering, I watch television all the time. I see your ads. I don't see a lot of vocalness about these sort of crimes, these hideous crimes in your promotion. So I'm wondering why that is.
Well, we are into it. First of all, we are going to end all sanctuary cities immediately. We're going to end them. Because they're really...
Is that an executive order you do that with?
They're really... I can do it with an executive order. I'll have to do it with an executive order. You can do it with the Aliens Act of 1798. We can do things in terms of moving people out. We can move them out of the sanctuary cities. You have some liberal, crazy people that they fight. Normally you like to understand the opponent. Like in business, you want to understand what is the opposites. Why do they want this? You want to try and figure why do they want open borders? Why do they want to do this? Why do they want sanctuary cities? Sanctuary cities are really meant for one thing, to protect criminals. That's what they become. We're going to end all sanctuary cities in the United States, and we're going to go back to normalcy. And we're going to have law and order. We're going to we have to reinvigorate our police. We have great police. They're not allowed to do their job. If they do their job with gusto, which is what we want them to be fair. And the sad thing is you'll always have a bad apple and, hundreds and hundreds of arrests, one bad arrest, and it's on the front page of every newspaper. And these people are incredible. They want to do their job, just like the Border Patrol. They want to do their job. We're going to let them do their job, and I'm going to give them immunity. We're going to protect them because they do things and they end up getting sued. They lose their family. They lose their house, they lose their pension, they lose everything. The police officers in this country are law enforcement and sheriffs, everything else. They have to be given back their dignity. They want to do their job. But we become so politically correct. I mean, you look at New York and Chicago and L.A. and every city, all run by Democrats, okay? Liberal, stupid Democrats. No. And our country...
So, Mr.
Our
President,
country has lost its way. So it's a good question. In other words, we're going to have law and order.
President, Kamala Harris has said you sounded unhinged and unchecked power is in our future. What do you say about that?
I thought it was a nice presentation. I wasn't unhinged. You know what they are? They're a party of sound bites. Somebody asked me, can they be brought together? I never thought, really, I wasn't thinking like they could. Because they're very, very different. And it is the enemy from within. And they're very dangerous. They're Marxists and communists and fascists. And they're sick. I use a guy like Adam Schiff because they made up the Russia hoax. It took 2 years to solve the problem. Absolutely nothing was done wrong, et cetera, et cetera. They're dangerous for our country. We have China. We have Russia. We have all these countries. If you have a smart president, they can all be handled. The more difficult are, the Pelosi's, these people, they're so sick and they're so evil. If they would spend their time trying to make America great again, it would be so easy to make this country great. But when I heard about that, they were saying I was like threatening. I'm not threatening anybody. They're the ones doing the threatening. They do phony investigations. I've been investigated more than Alphonse Capone. He was the greatest gangster. No, it's true.
We've
no,
got a
but think of
question.
it. It's called weaponization of government. It's a terrible thing.
All right.
They're the threat to democracy.
This is a question.
I'm glad I got that out.
Hello, Mr. President. My name is Jennifer. I live here in Cumming, Georgia. So the recent hurricanes, as we all know, have had a devastating impact on our country as a whole and specifically in the Southeast. What policies would you implement to help families and businesses recover financially?
Sure. So we give hundreds of billions of dollars to foreign countries, many of which you never heard of. And I'm not just talking Ukraine, I'm talking about so many countries that nobody's ever heard of, where they're getting tens of millions of dollars a month. And yet, this group of people we have in our White House did the worst recovery or rescue in especially North Carolina that anybody's ever seen, worse than almost Katrina, which I guess really set the example, right?
Compare.
I mean, they're comparing it to Katrina. They're saying maybe even worse. And then they're offering them like a little pittance, and they're negotiating. And I'll tell you, Elon Musk did something that was great. He got them Starlink. They called me. Do you know that one of the top people in North, they had no communication whatsoever. Then they said, you know Elon Musk? Yeah, because we want to get Starlink if we can, but it's very popular. They don't have it. I said, let me call him. I called him. He had it to them in minutes. Literally before I hung up the phone, I said, I was called while I was talking to him that he just approved it. He's on a different level.
Can you change it? Can you make FEMA better?
Yeah, but it was great with me. FEMA's great. FEMA was so good with me. We had such good people. But they put these radical left lunatics in there. They actually, when Elon had the Starlinks, and they had no communication. They're almost like an island unto themselves. They come on, and they were confiscated by FEMA, by basically the top people, because they didn't want it to go there. And then all hell broke loose, and they got the Starlink. And by the way, it worked incredibly well. He did a great service. Elon did a great service. You know what I like about it? He endorsed me. He gave me the biggest. You know what he said, Harris? So, I mean, look, he's a respected guy. When you can see a guy take that rocket yesterday,
oh my goodness,
and have that sucker come back out of space, all burned up, and he's putting it right back where it's. I said, why do you do that? Because I don't want to build another one.
President Trump, welcome back to Georgia. We are so happy that you're here. We're all very blessed to be here with you, and thank you for taking our questions. So I'm the mother of 3 small children, and I have many friends that have struggled with fertility issues over the years while trying to grow their families. And while they're pro-life, they're very concerned that the abortion bans will affect their ability to access IVF and other fertility treatments. So although abortion does lie with the states, what is your stance on that, and what would you say to those women?
So I got a call from Katie Britt, a young, just a fantastically attractive person from Alabama. She's a senator. And she called me up like emergency, because an Alabama judge had ruled that the IVF clinics were illegal and they have to be closed down. A judge ruled. And she said, friends of mine came up to me and they were so angry. I didn't even know they were going, it's fertilization. I didn't know they were even involved in it. Nobody talks about it. They don't talk about it. But now that they can't do it, she said, I was attacked. In a certain way, I was attacked. And I said, explain IVF very quickly. And within about 2 minutes, I understood it. I said, no, we're totally in favor of IVF. I came out with a statement within an hour, a really powerful statement with some experts, really powerful. And we went totally in favor. The Republican Party, the whole party, Alabama legislature, a day later overturned, meaning approved it, overturned, the judge essentially approved it. And we really are the party for IVF. We want fertilization, and it's all the way. And the Democrats tried to attack us on it, and we're out there on IVF even more than them. So we're totally in favor of it.